Right now, one of the most important waterways on the planet is under a dual military standoff. Iran controlling one side, the United States Navy enforcing a blockade on the other. The Strait of Hormuz, a 21-mile wide passage between the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea, is effectively choked. As of today, April 18, 2026, shipping through it has been reduced to almost nothing. Let's talk numbers first, because this tells you everything. Before this crisis, roughly 20% of the world's oil and 20% of its liquefied natural gas passed through this strait every single day. That's approximately 20 million barrels of oil daily. Around 130 ships were transiting it every 24 hours. 84% of that oil was going to Asia, China, Japan, South Korea, India. If you heat a home, drive a car, fly in a plane, or eat food grown with fertilizer, this strait affected your life.
Since February 28, 2026, Iran has blockaded the strait. The IRGC, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, issued warnings over VHF radio to every passing vessel. They launched 21 confirmed attacks on merchant ships. They planted sea mines in the waters. They threatened to set fire to any ship that defied them. In response, the United States, as of April 13, 2026, declared its own naval blockade, but targeting Iranian ports specifically. 12 U.S. warships, over 10,000 service members. U.S. Central Command has stated the blockade is now fully implemented, meaning no economic trade is entering or leaving Iran by sea. Iran is estimated to be losing $435 million per day. Iran has fired back, not yet with missiles, but with words that carry military weight. IRGC Commander Major General Ali Abdullahi warned this week that if the U.S. blockade of its ports continues, Iran's armed forces will shut down shipping across the entire Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, and the Red Sea. That's 3 waterways, not just one. The ceasefire that was supposed to fix all this? It's hanging by a thread. Iran says the U.S. blockade itself is a violation of the ceasefire. The U.S. says it won't lift the blockade until the strait is fully and freely open. Neither side is moving. Meanwhile, 230 loaded oil tankers are sitting stranded inside the Gulf. Helium is being rationed globally. Fertilizer prices have risen 50%. Oil hit $100 per barrel territory. And the world is watching.
This didn't come out of nowhere. Let's go back to where it actually started. Tensions between the US, Israel, and Iran had been building through 2025 and into 2026. Nuclear negotiations in Geneva had already failed. There had been a 12-day aerial conflict between Israel and Iran in 2025. In the days before the strikes, war risk insurance premiums for ships transiting the strait quietly doubled, from 0.125% to between 0.2% and 0.4% of a ship's full insurance value. For a very large oil tanker, that's a jump of $250,000 per single crossing. Iran itself tripled its oil export rate between February 15 and 20 and drained its storage reserves, moving oil out fast before the storm hit. Saudi Arabia did the same. The United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. Coordinated airstrikes hit Iranian military facilities, nuclear sites, and leadership targets. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was assassinated. Iran's response was immediate and total. The IRGC sealed the Strait of Hormuz. Not a warning, a full closure. Missile and drone attacks were launched against Israel, U.S. military bases, and U.S.-aligned Gulf states. The message was unmistakable. If you hit us at home, we hit the world's oil supply. Iran officially confirmed the strait was closed to unfriendly nations. Any ship that entered would be dealt with. A few ships still attempted passage. Some made it, some were attacked. Iran said it had achieved complete control of the strait. Major shipping firms suspended all operations through the passage.
Trump demanded that NATO countries and China help the U.S.
The U.S. launched an aerial and naval campaign to reopen the strait by destroying Iranian naval vessels and drones targeting shipping. At this point, the crisis escalated from a blockade into an active military campaign. Trump repeatedly threatened to destroy Iran's power plants and infrastructure. On March 22nd, Trump gave Iran 48 hours or he would obliterate Iranian power plants. Iran responded by threatening to lay mines throughout the entire Persian Gulf. On March 23rd, Trump backed down, citing very good and productive conversations. On March 30th, a new ultimatum. On April 4th, yet another 48-hour warning. Open the strait or face hell. Meanwhile, Iran selectively allowed ships through from China, Russia, India, Iraq, Pakistan, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines, running a de facto toll system, using the strait as a geopolitical bargaining chip. A temporary ceasefire was agreed, brokered through Pakistan. The deal was supposed to include reopening the strait, but Iran began controlling traffic through it, charging tolls of over $1 million per ship. On April 9th, the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company CEO confirmed the strait was still not open. 230 tankers were waiting inside the Gulf. Two U.S. Navy destroyers, the USS Frankie Peterson and USS Michael Murphy, entered the strait for the first time since the war began to conduct mine-clearing operations. Iran threatened to attack them, calling it a ceasefire violation. Israel separately assassinated Ali Reza Tangsiri, the IRGC naval officer personally overseeing the Hormuz blockade. J.D. Vance flew to Islamabad for peace talks. After a full day of negotiations, he announced the talks had failed. No agreement. Hours later, Trump declared a full U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports and coastal areas. Pakistan deployed fighter jets to escort the Iranian delegation safely home from the talks, fearing they might be targeted by Israel in the air. 12 U.S. warships enforced the blockade. 10 ships turned back. All economic sea trade into and out of Iran halted. Iran's armed forces formally warned that if the U.S. blockade continues, they will block all shipping across the Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, and the Red Sea. 3 waterways, simultaneous. That is the threat on the table right now.
So now, the real question. Where does this go? There are several paths forward, and they range from difficult to catastrophic. Scenario 1. Negotiated resolution. This is the path that diplomats are trying to build. France and the UK have announced a conference at the Elysee Palace, the Initiative for Maritime Navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, designed to coordinate multilateral management of traffic through the strait once the war ends. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, has stated that the strait is currently open to commercial vessels, but with 3 conditions. Ships must be purely commercial, they cannot be linked to hostile countries, and they must follow routes coordinated with Iranian forces. That is not what the U.S. calls free navigation. That is Iran saying, we are still in control. Trump wants 2 things: no nuclear weapons for Iran, and the strait fully open and safe. Iran's parliament has publicly said they will never give even 1 clause of concessions to the enemy. For negotiation to succeed, both sides need something they can call a win. That space currently does not exist.
Scenario 2. Escalation. If Iran follows through on its threat and closes the Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, and the Red Sea simultaneously, the global economic impact would be unlike anything seen since World War II. A senior advisor at Iran's government level has already threatened that Iranian allies could also close the Bab al-Mandeb, the strait connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Cambridge University analysts have called the simultaneous closure of both Hormuz and Bab al-Mandeb a nightmare scenario, potentially blocking a quarter of the world's energy supply. Oil at $150 or $200 per barrel, global food prices, collapsing supply chains, fertilizer shortages hitting farmers in the spring planting season, which is right now. The IEA has already called reopening Hormuz the single most important solution to the current global energy crisis. China and Russia have blocked every UN Security Council resolution aimed at reopening the strait. Russia's special envoy has publicly said Europe will beg for Russian energy as a result of this crisis.
Russia is benefiting. Scenario 3. A frozen standoff. The most likely near-term outcome may be neither clean resolution nor full escalation, but a grinding, partial, controlled standoff. Iran allows selective commercial traffic through the strait under its own terms. The U.S. maintains its blockade of Iranian ports. Neither side fully escalates, but neither backs down. Shipping insurance remains high. Major companies reroute cargo around Africa, adding weeks and enormous cost to every delivery. Oil prices stay elevated. Fertilizer prices stay high through the planting season, hitting food supplies globally by late 2026. The global economy absorbs the shock, but developing nations absorb it worst.
What Iran wants. Iran's hardliners believe they are winning the narrative domestically. Their supporters have been taking to the streets at night, and state television pushes the message that Iran has withstood 40 days of war against two military superpowers. Parliament's deputy speaker said openly, "We will never give concessions to our enemy." Control over the Strait of Hormuz is framed inside Iran not as a bargaining chip, but as a matter of sovereignty and national pride. Iran's government knows that without the strait, it has no leverage. The moment it fully opens the strait with no conditions, the pressure on it collapses. That is why it will not do it easily.
The bottom line? This crisis has already crossed a threshold the world has not seen since the 1970s oil embargo, and arguably surpassed it. The largest monthly oil price increase in history occurred in March 2026. The disruption to global energy supply is the worst since the 1970s energy crisis. The death toll as of now stands at over 3,300 Iranians killed since the February 28 strikes, over 2,100 in Lebanon, 32 in Gulf states, 23 in Israel, 13 U.S. service members killed in combat. This war is already real. The cost is already being paid. The strait will eventually reopen. It always has. But the question is what the world looks like when it does, and whether the deal that opens it will hold. Because if it doesn't, the next closure will come faster, with less warning, and with the world even less prepared. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide, but right now, it carries the weight of the entire world's energy future inside it. And nobody, not the US, not Iran, not China, not the UN, has found the key to unlock it yet.